Nice to see you.
We need to
Review. Ladies and gentlemen, can I kindly request that we take our stand?
I'm looking forward to really working with the Electoral Laws and Governance Institute of Africa, because we have a lot that we are working on. Very soon, we are going to bring out that report, the GLA, the Government Legislative Agenda Document, which has never been done anywhere. This is the first time we are having the State Department for Parliamentary Affairs in the history of Kenya. And I think it is the first one in Africa, if not in the world. So going forward, we are not, the vision of the State Department is to ensure that all that needs to be worked on in terms of the legislative framework or the policy framework is done early in advance and is channeled to Parliament early in advance to ensure that the National Government Development Agenda is actually implemented. We have a vision to ensure that these key legislations that we want to develop doesn't land at Parliament the 5th year of an administration or the 4th year of an administration, because that will not actually serve the purpose. Our objective is to coordinate all these legislations across the ministries, state departments, and agencies to channel them to Parliament within the stipulated time to enable us to deliver to the people of Kenya.
Kenyans are keen on an electoral body that is democratic, transparent, and accountable in both internal and external operations, and that enjoys the full confidence of our people. Even those who believe that last year's elections were credible will agree that there are problems with the IEBC and its own credibility. The so-called mix-up that led to postponement of gubernatorial elections in Mombasa and Kakamega last year is itself a manifestation of a problem with transparency, accountability, and professionalism at that body. When we as Azimio went to court over presidential election results, Smartmatic, the provider of election technology, shocked us with a declaration that we could not access the server because it would compromise its other operations. Indeed, it went against a directive of the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court. They said they couldn't do that. That says a lot about the kind of deal IEBC got our country into. As a country, we have in the last decade tried to embrace modern systems for collection, collation, transmission, and tallying of election results. We have adopted results management systems that combine traditional vote counting and tallying processes and use of technology to verify voter eligibility, register voters, and transmit results. We have modified electoral laws to allow political parties to independently tally the results. But as we have witnessed in Kenya, both in the 2017 and 2022 technologies getting compromised and results altered. This has severely damaged the credibility of IEBC. Let me cite an example about credibility of IEBC. According to the Gallup poll, 64% of Kenyans did not have confidence in the honesty of elections as we prepared for 2022 polls. Similarly, the Afrobarometer survey shows that 24% of Kenyans thought that elections are not free at all, are not at all free and fair. A further 18% thought that elections may be free and fair, but there are major problems. Only 23% of Kenyans thought that elections are completely free and fair as we headed to the polls in 2022. The Afrobarometer survey further showed that 31% of Kenyans did not trust our election management body, the IEBC, at all. And another 23% trusted IEBC only a little. Only 19% trusted IEBC a lot as we headed to the polls in 2022. According to the Gallup poll, the percentage of Kenyans who have confidence in the honesty of elections declined from 58% in 2015 to only 35% in 2021. And please remember, even as the results, controversial as they were, 8 million Kenyans refused to vote out of those registered. That should make it clear to everyone that we have to rethink IEBC, and in good time. Time is, of course, Morio, extremely of the essence. I submit that reconstitution of IEBC is a matter of grave national interest, and we should approach it as such. Another area under consideration at this forum is equally of great concern, not just to Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party, but to our country as a whole. The growth or otherwise of our democracy is heavily dependent on the kind of election management body we evolve and the rules we put in place with regard to financing of elections. In our country, as elsewhere, we have seen that democracy can be on trial, but it can also be on sale. Both jeopardize the stability and progress of the nation. We have to agree that as a country, we have a money problem when it comes to elections. Money is flooding our political system. In the university, we used to say money has been poured. Okay? Money is enabling only a handful of billionaires to decide who becomes governor, who gets in to be a county assembly representative or member of parliament, and even decide who runs and who eventually sits at the State House as president. There are millions of ordinary Kenyans with wonderful and revolutionary ideas, progressive ideas, I call them, on how we can take our country forward. But those people are being locked out of politics or leadership because they have no capacity to raise massive campaign cash, make massive financial contributions. Indeed, we are seeing a resurgence of Arambi once again. They make massive financial contributions to political parties or candidates. They hire high-priced lobbyists, campaign experts, and lawyers that tilt the playing field in their favor. And so, such people sit back and become spectators because they see the democracy being on sale to the highest bidder. They see the system is already rigged by the moneyed. It gets worse when finances come from outsiders and with unknown and undeclared interest in the leadership of our country. This kind of development decreases the political participation that is a requisite part of our attempt at being a democracy.
Lack of significant challenges to the electoral laws in the 2017 to 2022 election cycle. Though recommendations were made, only late changes through the Political Parties Amendment Act, which were more political than transformative, were affected to the electoral law. The last comprehensive review of electoral law was in 2016 by the Joint Committee led by Governor James Orengo and the former Governor Kiraitu Murungi while serving in the Senate. The changes directly impacted the 2017 election and largely influenced the Supreme Court's decision in the incidental presidential election petition, Raila 2. I am of the view that given the dynamic nature of Kenya's political and socio-economic landscape, it is necessary that discussions on the electoral law reforms should begin immediately and that enactment of necessary electoral laws be done at least 12 months before the 2027 elections. And this is so critical because even as we speak, I don't know how the team will tackle this because we also have cases. People are actually challenging the validity of the census numbers. And those matters are in court. And if it happens that those censuses are declared invalid or they get their way on their petition, then what does that mean for the process that is going on and where we are going. Because then it would mean that everything again is put to hold unless we can all say that we have clean data around the census. So that is a landmine somewhere in the path of this bipartisan talks. I am pleased to join you for this important conversation on post-election electoral law reform agenda. This conference has assembled practitioners who will add immense value as we think through electoral law reform for the 2022-2027 cycle. I thank the Electoral Law and Governance Institute for Africa, ELGIA, who have collaborated with the Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to convene this important workshop. I also take note of the participation of other electoral and governance institutions like the State Law Office, the Kenya Law Reforms Commission, Office of the Registrar of Political Parties, Commission of Administrative Justice, among others. The multi-sectoral nature of this workshop is also evident in the presence of vital civil society organizations and religious organizations. I also recognize the development partners, the USAID and the United Kingdom Foreign Commonwealth Development Office, FCDO, for supporting this important consultation. Our rich political history is characterized by the struggle to realize the rule of law, social and economic transformation, and sustainability. Our decades of effort culminated in the Constitution of Kenya 2010, which embodies the spirit and aspirations of Kenyans. As we reflect on the 2022 general elections, participants might recall that election management was a central theme in the struggle for constitutional reform. Indeed, the disputed elections in 2007 defined the constitutional moment that gave the final impetus to the enactment of the Constitution. Allow me to lay the groundwork for some ideas, some which have already been talked about, I consider important for deliberation. At the core of our Constitution are the national values and principles of governance, which both describe and prescribe what Kenya should be and how it should be governed. Patriotism, national unity, sharing and devolution of power, rule of law, democracy, and participation of the people anchor Article 10. They define the Kenyan character. A free and fair electoral process embodies the constitutional sovereignty of the Kenyan people and is the cross-cutting feature that facilitates the ultimate accountability to the people. In this sense, peaceful transition of power and constitutionalism is guaranteed and protected. The 2010 Constitution lays significant importance to both an elaborate state governance structure and an adequately regulated electoral framework as an important element of that governance structure. Further, the Constitution has two broad pillars: nation building and state establishment. Elections and peaceful transition of political power and the quintessential props for these two pillars that contribute to public participation and accountability, thus opening the gates to legitimacy of the state. Whereas the competitive electoral democracies are by their nature divisive, it is important that the aftershocks yield public confidence that in turn services the objectives of nation building. They are quick wins to create momentum for necessary electoral law reform. Ladies and gentlemen, as a nation, it's about time we deal decisively with the cyclic violence that afflicts our country during and after elections. The solution lies in our duty as patriotic citizens to believe in and abide by our Constitution, which provides adequate safeguards for free and fair elections. Elections may be a make or break moment, but there should never be a do or die moment so that we destroy the country. And this is so critical. Let us go back to the journey of Musando, the late. Let us go back to the others in the IEBC who lost their lives. Let us reflect on the fear we visit on officials of IEBC because of our politics. What can we do so that this comes to an end? There are difficult times for all of us, but we must forge, and maybe through the bipartisan process, let us also come out very clearly and say no to taking away the lives of electoral officials, or any life for that matter, because of our politics. For reference, the 2022 elections gave us a rare opportunity to engage in issue-based political mobilization and discourse. Both the process and outcome of the 2022 general election were credible and met all the constitutional thresholds upon which the standard of credibility is measured. However, the specter of violence reared its ugly head again despite the Supreme Court exhaustively rendering judgment. This conference should work towards ensuring that all election stakeholders commit to uphold higher electoral standards that yield acceptable results, leading to full public confidence and nation building, and not destructive riots. The conversation to audit cyclic violence since the return of multi-party politics in 1992 and provide practical solutions to address the causative issues should begin here. The composition of the participants and the agenda of this conference predisposes it to a political meeting. You therefore have no excuse for not tackling the hard issues. Our realities must speak and make us strive for change. Meaningful change only comes with accepting what our realities are and working together to meet the needs of these realities. Our political and ideological differences notwithstanding, our common realities remain stubborn and can only be dealt with through joint effort symbolized by this conference. I therefore reiterate the commitment of the Kenya Kwanza government to cooperate with and facilitate all the processes that will enable full consolidation of constitutional transformation. And on this, I support Honorable Kalonzo, that Parliament is the body that appropriates. And if Parliament has seen it fit that this process needs to be supported, then Parliament constitutes the representatives of the people. So we need to move ahead, because not too long ago, we were getting calls that there must be dialogue. There's an urgency for dialogue. There was pressure from all over, the religious leaders, the media, the political class, the business community. Everybody was urging there must be dialogue. And it is important that we appreciate that this dialogue is being facilitated by the Kenyan taxpayer to solve Kenyan problems. I wonder what would be the situation if it turned out that the bipartisan talks are being sponsored or facilitated fully by a foreign body. How would Kenyans react to that? So when you have an opportunity that it is being done by the Kenyan people themselves through the parliament, surely that should be the least of the worries. In fact, it should be a kudos that it is the Kenyans themselves who are putting their money on the table so that Kenyans can move forward. But can you imagine if this was being funded by some foreign entity? Then we would end up all saying that that conversation is not a Kenyan conversation, but it's a conversation that is being sponsored by some external body. So sometimes we see evil when there's no evil. I think let us support this process and let us support Parliament for what it is doing so that we can move forward. Therefore, we undertake by all means necessary and lawful to support discourse on constitutionalism and nation building, including the national dialogue led by the NATCO to ensure optimal functioning of the IEBC through transparent appointment of commissioners, adequate and timely financial and human resource facilitation, and effective capacity building for the fulfillment of the Commission's constitutional mandate. I encourage all of you and all Kenyans to have the courage to take the essential step in redefining our nation-building journey that we started 13 years ago. It is in this spirit that I declare this multi-stakeholders consultative workshop on electoral reforms officially opened. Asanteni sana and God bless you.